Now, Sky News understands that the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, is considering leaving the cabinet and could potentially stand down as an MP at the next general election. Mr Wallace, who has played a key role in responding to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was recently overlooked for the role of NATO General Secretary. Now, for more on this, I'm joined here in the studio by Defence and Security Analyst Professor Michael Clarke. Michael, the background to why he was overlooked is quite interesting in itself. But what does it mean for the UK's defence policy and positioning? Because he's a very experienced pair of hands.
Yes, he is. He's been in the Ministry of Defence for 8 years. He's held the fort at a very difficult time, taking a very tough line on Ukraine and on modernising British forces. But he's up against the Treasury at a time of economic stringency, and so he hasn't got what he needed. He got a 4-year financial settlement 2 years ago, and he won't get any more. And so if he feels his own political career is not going anywhere, and he's not going to be a NATO Secretary-General, which he isn't, then he may well feel that, OK, it's time to go and do something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, isn't it? Let's shift our attention to Ukraine. The president of South Korea has arrived. What's going on there? What's he doing?
No, there he is, yeah. President Yoon Suk-yeol. And he's been president since summer last year. And he was at Vilnius. He was at the NATO summit, because the NATO summit also included South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. That's how important that summit has become in uniting the Western world and the G7. So he's in Europe, and he makes a visit. I understand he's been to Bucha and Irpin, as everyone does, as a sort of pilgrimage now, for any visitors to go to these places to see the evidence of war crimes. Very important to the Ukrainians. In the past, South Korea has said they will only give humanitarian aid to Ukraine and some counter-mining, demining stuff. But actually, most of us believe they've been giving a lot of shells, 155mm artillery shells, which the Ukrainians really need. And this week, The Economist said that, what we've all believed, that they've been giving them shells, American shells, which would otherwise go to South Korea, because the Russians are firing off 40,000 shells a day. The Ukrainians are firing off about 15 to 20,000 shells a day. They desperately need them. And I think South Korea has played a bigger role for Ukraine than most people until this week were prepared to admit.
A lot of things that go on sort of under the radar. Meanwhile, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the march on Moscow. It looked like there could have even been a coup with the Wagner troops advancing on Moscow. It was all fizzled out. And now we understand that Putin had meetings with senior leaders of Wagner. What is all this telling us about the power dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, Putin's political credibility is draining away. we know for certain now, in his own words, that he met Wagner people, Prigozhin, and 35 Wagner fighters in the Kremlin on the 29th of June, which was only 4 days after their attempted coup. And he was negotiating with them, and he didn't even get what he wanted out of them. And so Wagner is still in existence. They're still informed units in southern Ukraine. They're not fighting, because they withdrew from the fighting after Bakhmut to reorganise. They're carrying on reorganising. Some of them have gone to Belarus, to Azipovichi, which is this area in Belarus been set aside, but very few of them. Nobody quite knows what Wagner are going to do. Meanwhile, these people are emerging as the winners of this chaos. This man is Duamin, and he's on the left there, he's the governor of Tula, and he's a sort of pragmatist. A lot of people look to him as the sensible view. While Putin seems to be declining, people are looking to Duamin because he gets on with everybody. He has been in the security services, he has been in the Ministry of Defence, he's now a very able man. And the other man is Zolotov, the man we saw a bit earlier on. Zolotov is the head of the internal force, the Rosgvardia, who are the home defence forces. And he was loyal to Putin when other people's loyalty was not so obvious. And so Duamin and Zolotov are the two, there's Zolotov, Duamin and Zolotov are the two winners out of this chaos. But meanwhile, the Wagner sort of opera goes on. And, Wagner are named after Richard Wagner, the composer. And I think, Wagner itself is taking itself to their own personal Gotterdammerung.
Very long operas, aren't they?
Twilight of the Gods.
Indeed. All right. Michael, cultured and comprehensive as ever. Thank you very much.